Welcome to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show, where I'm up here at Shepperton Marina at the Lyndon Lewis Marina on the River Thames, where the Chief Engineer of Lyndon Lewis, Tom, is going to give us an insight into the tips he's going to use to fit a new Lowrance HDS7 Gen 2 touchscreen to my boat, High Sea Drifter, which is a 17-foot Wilson Flyer. And the Wilson Flyer model is one of the most famous shark boats ever because it's already had big porbiggles, big thresher sharks, bigger than a lot of other boats, well, bigger than most boats actually, that's the truth of it. And I want the best for my boat. It's got me some great big sharks, hopefully going to catch me some more. But Tom is a New Zealand fisherman, he's a small boat angler himself, so he fully understands all about getting big sharks and big fish into boats. If we can stop talking about fish and all this electronic wizardry, I've learned about 8 tips just talking to him. We're going to hopefully be able to give you some tips on putting into practice how to fit the transducer, where to put the cabling, lots of little tips on placement, everything to make that unit work perfectly for you. So, although people could fit their own transducer, I mean, the recommendation would be to get somebody professional to do it. If you want to avoid pitfalls. I mean, they can follow the manual, but it's not the same because they, as for instance, that wrapping you're doing, that's not going to be in a manual, probably, I guess.
No. I mean, little tricks like this, you just learn from experience, having seen people come in who've put a fish hook through their transducer wire, and basically you have to take it off and replace it. You can try and repair the wire with limited amounts of success, and I really mean limited amounts of success. Ideally, if you are putting an expensive transducer on it, 4 or 5 pounds worth of plastic spiral binding, and you're going to afford yourself
Worry-free. Worry-free.
Well, not worry-free, but a bit more protection than if you
and very long, that's a structure scan transducer. It seems very long. It's twice as big, 3 times as big as the other one I had.
Does a very, very different job though. It does a very different job. It sits horizontally and scans an arc underneath it. Gives you a much more detailed image of what's going on underneath the water. That, of course, is the bracket comes with, so we're just going to mount all of that up and get it all ready to go on the back of the boat.
And that tucks in the back flat, I suppose, when you're going along. When you got it up, it flips up. There's quite a big bit to stick out, though, isn't it?
The flip up part is just a safety.
Yeah.
It is only ever a safety. This will actually sit straight square off the back of the boat, horizontal with the ground. If you do hit something, it will kick it up.
Okay.
But ordinarily it will sit down and flat. This is your standard transducer that we're going to reuse with the new installation. Couple of things to note about it. To me, it's not so much in the wrong position, but it's not where I would have put it. It isn't straight, so you're going to be shooting off on an angle. Few little things, countersunk screws, silicone hanging out everywhere. Not what I would leave it as with a professional sort of finish. Silicone in the hole, no scoop on top of it, and again, no protection on the cable.
Scoop is for what, Tom, on that?
The scoop is just a little cover. Again, aesthetics more than anything, and a little bit of protection so that you don't drop something on there and cut that cable.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Thing. So we're going to actually not mount it, but readjust it, tweak it slightly. Obviously, as soon as you've turned the screws, you're going to break the silicone inside, so we're going to have to re-silicone it. I'm actually going to change the screws and put dome head normal screws in it. Not so much a worry with a fiberglass boat. If you're an aluminium boat owner, don't go down to your local home base, pick up a packet of silicone and expect it to be good for your boat. There's 3 different types of silicon: acid cure, neutral cure, and alkaline cure. If you put an acid cure silicon on an aluminium boat, you will burn holes in it.
Is that right?
So
Not good.
if you go down to home base, make sure you read the label and find yourself a neutral cure silicon. Not so much of a concern with a fiberglass boat, but it is good to have a neutral, proper marine silicon that's designed for salt, fresh water, wherever you're going to be running.
So the actual bracket there is usable. That can be used with this transducer.
Yep. Oh no, the bracket's what comes with the transducer. They've got the little rubber packer in there, which gives you your safety. It's a little bit loose, so I'm going to tidy that all up, tighten that up a little bit, just generally tidy that installation up. I haven't got enough room in here for the structure scan. We need 300 mils.
From the prop, yeah?
No, 300 mils from this transducer, which is going to put us down here. The problem with that is then we're too close to the engine. So we're actually going to go on the other side. When you're installing a transducer, you're looking for a nice flat area, no planing strakes underneath. Right up on this boat, they're a long way forward. They're about 8 feet further forward.
So they're safe up there, no bubbles?
Safe up there. If they finish right at the back of the boat, you don't want to put your transducer smack bang on a planing strake. It's going to disturb your water flow, give you false readings. Roughly, for a good compromise, you want to split the transducer with the hull of your boat. So if you've got a deep V, your transducer is going to be roughly there. With this boat, it's quite flat. We're going to split the difference, install it about this height here. If you put your transducer too high, it's not far enough in the water, it's not going to work. If you put it too low, what it's going to do is create a huge volume of spray. If that spray is hitting your engine, it can get ingested into the engine, causing you significant damage to your motor. So height is important. If you put it too high, you will find when you're going fast it won't work. The answer is to put it lower, but be aware, the lower you go, the more spray you create. The better the transducer works, however, there is the nasty flip side to it. Alright, so strip this down, pulled the silicon out. Straight away we've found a bit of, well, not a problem, but it's in there. It's been installed and bunged up with a bit of duct tape. So I'm actually going to leave that as is. I'm going to run the spiral binding and re-silicon it in. Put a nice scoop on there, just tidy it up, reinstall it, put a P-clip there, tidy it up, make everything look a little bit nicer, a bit more professional. And then we're going to square up, line up the transducer, get that setting just right, and then we'll get on to installing the structure scan. Right, so just as a finishing touch, I'm going to put a little stainless steel cap. So that's the protection on the top of the cable. Install of that. It's not quite as straight as I'd like, and that's roughly because that's where that is, and that's where that is. So I've just straightened it up a little bit. P-clips, nice new silicon, cleaned everything up a little bit. You can see, just a little bit more professional looking. So when you get a little bit of silicon that squeezes out around the side there, easy little trick, a little bit of carb cleaner, a little bit of brake cleaner, works just as well on a rag. Give it a wipe up, get your fingernail in there, just cleans off the excess, and you end up with a transducer installed, looking a lot like that. Right, so we've pre-assembled this. At this stage we're just going to get a rough fit. We're going to space ourselves roughly halfway between the outboard and the auxiliary. We want as much between here and here as we can. Ideally a foot, 30 centimeters, 300 mils, whichever way you want to speak. Height wise, this wants to run in the water. Basically we want the water line coming out and along the bracket here. Obviously the angle is not quite right at the moment, so we can adjust the angle. It's too far to get us in the ballpark. Now when it's installed, it's obviously going to sit on an angle. And this here is probably the most critical part of the whole install, is getting you set up right. If you don't set it up right first, you're going to get distorted images, you're going to get fuzz, noise. The better the setup initially, the less problems you're going to have in the long run.
So right in the water there by the look of it, yeah, coming off the bottom of the keel.
Yep, so we're going to be about right there. So splitting down through the transducer. So when you're going fast, you are getting water flow over the transducer. Obviously when you're sitting still, it's going to be nice down, about a foot under the water. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do this. Obviously the slightly nicer way to do it is with a pen or a pencil. Pencil's really good for fiberglass because you can just wipe it off and start again. Alright, so the idea with these slots are we're going to install our screws along that level there. That's going to give us the ability to come up or down over about 20 mil. So if we have got the transducer too high, transducer too low, we can fine tune it. If you go, and I see this quite a bit, you put one up here, one down here, and one up here. Yes, it's slightly more stable, but straight away, if you ever need to move that, you're going to either have 2 extra holes or 1 extra hole in your boat.
And you've got to fill them then, yeah.
Yeah. The less holes in your boat, the better. Alright, so just looking at what's coming out of the transom, you can see that this is obviously the wood core that's within the transom. Alright, so this is pretty commonplace in fiberglass boats. Now, at the moment it's only just damp. Nothing really to worry about. The transom's nice and solid. What will happen in years to come is the transom will start to get a bit soft. So you'll notice you get a bit of movement and everything.
Where would you find the movement? By moving the engine or?
Yeah, grab the skeg, give it a wiggle. And if your transom is wobbling back and forth a lot and it is getting a little bit too soft for your liking, one trick is to get a stainless steel or aluminium plate manufactured up that kind of mirrors the shape of your transom all the way around. Loads of silicone on the back, glue it on, obviously take your motor off first, and then rebolt your engine on. Okay, it will basically create a nice big metal transom.
A bracket on the inside, Tom, as well, you say?
Yeah, of course. Brackets either side of your mounting bolts. You may need to get longer mounting bolts to accommodate 2 sheets of aluminium or stainless steel, but you basically create a big metal sandwich and put some metal reinforcing on the back of your transom. And it will prolong or extend the life of your boat.
That's commonplace in plywood and fiberglass combos, I suppose. There's no way around it.
There is no real way around it. Obviously, the great way around it is buy a new boat. But
yeah, if
you really like the boat and you want to hang on to it, and the rest of the hull's got a few more years in it, it is one solution to a soft transom problem. This one here, however, is actually looking pretty good. So those are the 3 holes that we're going to be mounting into. Now, a big problem with fiberglass, if you've ever drilled into it and tried to put a screw into it, is it will crack. Cracks the gel coat. So grab yourself, obviously my pilot drill. I've got 1/8 inch or 3.2 mil, and a 1/4 inch, so it's about 7 mil, I think. Obviously, don't go in forwards. Flick your drill into reverse, so it's running backwards, and then countersink your holes.
That's a totally awesome tip for any way of countersinking there, even on my properties, Tom. So it saves me digging the countersink out.
Yeah, a lot cheaper than a countersinking bit if you haven't got one lying around.
Just reverse the drill.
Reverse the drill. You don't need to go in far. Clear your dust out, and you've got a nice countersunk hole to be able to stop. It mainly just stops the gel coat from fracturing out when you go and put the screw in it. Obviously, our marine silicone, reasonably generous dab, and make sure you get it into that countersink, into that hole. At this stage I'm not too worried about height, just want to get a couple in there. Alright, so I've been doing this for so long, I don't usually use this anymore. I just do it by eye. Straight edge, really handy tool for setting up. Obviously, flat on your bottom of your boat. And as you can see, I'm not far off. But that is basically where the water is going to be coming through on this side and this side here. So we're cutting the transducer straight down through that level there. Obviously we've got that roughly where we want it now. Nip your screws up.
You haven't put the centre one until you've actually got it lined up then, Tom?
Yeah, I tend to do the outer two, get it all locked off.
And no washers there for supporting?
Tend not to. The more layers, the more potential for movement. So long as you've got your silicone in there, that's going to give your screw a little bit of support. All right, so transducer's on. We're just going to fix up the cable. Obviously, straight lines look nice. So I've already done a P-clip at the bottom here. Put one in the top, one in the middle, and that's going to hold that cable nice and straight, nice and tidy. Stop it wobbling around, getting caught in your engine. Again, 1/8 pilot drill. Quarter inch in reverse. Little dab of sealant. And your screw. Near enough makes no difference. 28, 14. And that's now exactly halfway. Because no one likes being too horribly out of place. Now obviously I'm working quite fast, I've done this a couple of times, but a few minutes spent just doing your little finishy touches will make all the difference. I mean, the finished install is going to look a whole lot better. Righty-ho, so in the boat obviously now, run the cable through. I'll show you a little bit of that later. Taking the old bracket out. Now the old mounting location is obviously going to dictate for us where we put the new one. We've obviously got to try and hide this big hole. One thing I did notice, the previous installer saved himself £1 by putting steel screws in there. Not only will they rust and make it nearly impossible to get them out, they look horrible and they leave rust stains everywhere.
That's my mate telling me do it cheap. That's my mate.
Spend the money on the stainless steel.
Thank you, P. Thank you, P, for telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah, for the extra £1, stainless steel is
always in salt water, yeah?
Especially in salt water. Fresh water as well, but especially in salt water. Now, this is the original transducer.
That's from the HDS5, yeah?
That's from the HDS5, yeah. It's a Lawrence 5200 kilohertz. So we're reusing that one. I have already taken the old one out and installed the new power wire. Now, they do work sometimes. But we don't know whether Lawrence have made any changes. So if it comes with a new power cable, put the new power cable in.
Okay.
You don't know whether they have changed. That one and the other one will plug into the new unit, but just in case, we'll put that new power wire in. So here we've got the nice new Lawrence HDS7. A little bit bigger, so it's not going to go all the way back in as far as we want, but we're going to want it somewhere roughly about there. So that's going to work. Right, so we've dropped the screen off. That's basically where we're going to have our sounder. The new ones have got a really nice slot underneath them, so you can drill your nice big hole to get all these big plugs out from, and then install this over the top. It looks nice and tidy. Your cables come straight out the back, straight into into the back of your head unit. Looks really, really nice. So, 1, 2. We're going to mark out our new mounting holes. Really, really, really important. Make sure there's nothing underneath.
When you drill through, yeah?
That you're going to drill through and drill into.
In case you clip the cables and all your work's ruined again.
Yep. So, that one, and that one are fine. This one here is actually down into a wooden bearer. Now, I was going to bolt this down to the dashboard. Because of the way it's going to be, it's going to end up with 3 bolts.
And a screw.
And a screw.
I see, yeah, yeah.
So, although it's not going to be all 4 are the same, the 3 are going to provide most of the support, and the 4 is going to stop the bracket twisting.
Okay.
So, obviously got the windscreen here and a little bit of a...
And don't push right down, I notice, in case you clip any cables.
Yep, just let the drill do the work. Obviously, there is cables, there's wiring and stuff running around. You don't want to plunge through, go through some of your engine wiring. Trust me, working in the marine industry, engine stuff's expensive. Sweet, so we've got the new bracket all in place. Got the 3 cables. You can see I've sort of made them all nicely laid out in the order that they're going to be going into the back of the unit. Got power, structure scan, and our transducer. Put a little zip tie on there just so that they can't disappear back in, and just given it enough length so that they're not untidy, but you've got enough room that when you do go to put it in, you can get everything clipped up and in place. Rightio, so we're all fixed in, all the plugs are in the back. Got our new chart. This is obviously got the UK charts. So you've got your sun cover, HDS 7. This little slot in here is where your chart card goes. So that just clicks into place. When it clicks into place, there we go. And the little door closed. So that, once we've got it all wired up, it's all ready to go. So now the tricky part, the wiring. Right, so obviously after we installed the transducer, we've come up across the transom, in through the gland and up the side. Just zip tied it all the way. Nice close intervals, nice bit of support for the cable. Run the cable comes up behind the dashboard. The excess is going to be kept in behind the dash, and then it comes up to the head unit.
So next stage really is finish the wiring inside.
Do the wiring inside. Obviously we've got to get some power onto this. This one here we don't have to worry about too much of the excess wiring. A lot of it is just going to be to do with NMEA and the other accessories that you can get. Radar, sonar, all the bits and bobs. We're not going to have to worry about that today. Just get some power onto it and we'll be away.
One question I did have, somebody said if you're going to play with it on the boat, Graham, don't play with like the sounder because the transducer will overheat if it's not in water. Is there any truth in that?
It won't overheat, but it's not so much bad for it, but it will give you really, really odd readings.
Yeah.
So just the delicate process of stripping back the wires. We've obviously come down from the sounder, zip tied everything up nice and tight. We've got our ancillary wire coming over this way, and that's actually going to connect up to the radio for the DSC function on our VHF. This is obviously power for the unit. So a little bit fiddly, really handy, but very, very easy to mark the cable. So you have to be very careful, not to mention mark yourself if you get it wrong. Alright, so I'm not going to go too much into wiring colours because there is so many different variations. This is where you come back to, you've got to read the manual. For the install that we're doing, this is the new one, this is the old one. We're basically matching like for like. We're going to take blue and yellow, and that's going to go over to our VHF. On our other loom we've got earth and power, and just to confuse everyone, nothing. So read the manual, read the manual. This one we don't actually need, so I tend to trim them back so they're out of the way.
Tom Cruise doesn't do that when he disarms a bomb, does he? I'll just trim this one back out of the way.
Yeah.
I'll be terrified to cut anything.
And then just wrap it round. Keep it tidy, out of the way. Now, really, really important, make sure you fuse your equipment. If you don't fuse it and you get a short, you might find you are in the process of replacing a very, very expensive, freshly installed sounder. So, we've got our earth. We'll run that with all our other wiring. Down to our buzz bar. Now, positive, we're actually going to run up and join on to our switch panel. You can wire it permanently to power if you like. If you do want to wire it permanently to power, you'd obviously go to your positive buzz bar feed. For this one, we are going to the switch. Now, luckily for me, some nice person has already gone and installed a fuse. So the only thing I'll need to do is just make sure that that's the right size fuse. For these Lowrances, it's usually a 5 amp from memory. I will double check on that. It's either 5 or 3. They will actually come with the sounder, so when all else fails, just put in what they gave you.
It comes in with a fitting kit, does it, Tom?
Yeah, put in what they give you. It's the right size. If you go and put a 30 amp fuse in there, you'll have
a very,
very dead sounder if you do have a problem. Rightio, so we're all wired up at the back, power, earth, and our wiring for our radio. So unpack it. We'll put our chart in already. Hit our power button, and away she goes. A great thing with these units is there's so much that you can plug into them. There's radar. You can plug the engine in. They speak on what's called an NMEA network, so we can get the engine data from the engine, get it talking to the unit, and then display all your gauges for your engine up on your heads-up display. Now, like anything, that's an optional accessory. More money usually.
What do you give you fuel? It tells you what your fuel you're going to burn at certain revs and all that. Consumption.
Fuel consumption, fuel used. I think it will convert, or a calculated fuel used. It won't give you a fuel level. You have to then have an inboard fuel tank and a sender and all the rest of it. But of course, you can then get that to all talk to the sounder. You can have gauges while you're running. We've obviously got our charts. You've got your sonar, which is just your direct down sonar, that first one that we looked at.
That's the original one I was using, the transducer, yeah?
Yep, so that's our original one. That's our dual frequency, 5200 kilohertz. And then our newly installed structure scan. I'll change the frequency just so it'll actually bring something up. But this is going to give you a really, really detailed picture of what's going on under the water. Really, really good for spotting the area and surveying the area that you're fishing, trying to find the best place to get your baits into. GPS information, of course, all the numbers, as well as headings, all the different bits and bobs. There's so much that you can do with these units. You really have to spend a long time playing around. All your split screens, you can have charts, you can have sonar, whatever you want. So,
well, Tom, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for doing all that for you.
All installed and ready to go fishing. Just one thing on your engine I did notice.
Yeah. Good news, I hope.
No, not bad news, but
take a look at it.
Yeah. So just noticed on your torque tamer, we torque tab. Got a little bit of calf burn in here. Now a bit of this is the anode wearing away, but you are getting a little bit of aeration in your prop.
What's that mean? What is that aeration? Where's that come from?
So this is probably the most important part of your whole engine, and it has to be right for your engine. So we went through a little bit earlier, going to get you to go out and do some trials, find out what that engine's revving to, see if we can knock down the cavitation and the aeration that's getting in that prop.
So what's eating this is also bubbles flying past it?
Yeah, so you're generating bubbles off your propeller and they're exploding against this little tab here. Now once that breaks, that obviously increases the area and that will start to erode. You will see this, it is normal, but probably time for a new one of those.
Okay.
And we're going to get you to do some tests, find out if you have got the dead right propeller on there for your boat, for your rig.
Well, I think we'll get some fish in there as well. But listen,
Not a problem.
Tom, I appreciate all your help here up at Lyndon Lewis. I can obviously see from the time you spend here that you obviously know what you're talking about, especially with the electric. The way you were snipping those wires, like Mission Impossible, it turned into Mission Possible.
That's the one.
And I can't wait to get it in the water now.
Yep. Any problems, just give us a bell.
Thank you.